Okay, so Spitfire all done, canopy stuck down, and what I've done is I've just tacked it down with a little bit of PVA glue to literally just put it all together. Same as we PVA glued the door on, so at any point we could just push that and that centre canopy will come away and obviously the door will open. So what it is, we've had a good look around it, we're really happy of how it is, but what we need to do now is obviously give it a coat of primer to properly have a look and see what we've got. But first of all, what we need to do is light proof the actual canopy work down in here. Now, because the canopy is, let's grab the paint, green on the inside, and then obviously we're going to have primers on the outside and all the rest of it, it should be fine, but to guarantee it's good solid colour, so this means that the canopy doesn't look translucent at any point, we're just going to give it a little bit of the interior colour, so this will be the one that shows through first, then we're going to give it a tiny little bit of black, then we'll put the primer on it. So we're just going to pop a little bit, we're only going to need a smidging, to be honest, of paint down in here. I'll just give that a work. Alright, and then what we do, we're literally just going to come in, check our flow, and we're just going to blast this around the framework. So the framework just has that familiar green colour showing through. So that's just down on there like that. We can tip that back in there. Alright, so we're happy there. And then what we're going to do is, and because we're not really worried about the colour or anything else, we're just going to use black and we're going to spray it neat again. And we're just going to put the black on. Now this black is just to basically make it light. We're going to put it in with the green. We're just going to blow the green through and out. And then we'll come back in. Tiny bit of the black in there. Come through black, as you can see, and then we're just going to put the black on top. And this is just so it's got a good solid look. There's nothing worse, you look through and you can see light penetrating through. So this is to penetrate those areas. And then what you can do, to be honest, is just go off and use the leftover in some of the seam lines you're a little bit worried about. So this isn't anything to do with pre-shading, this is just to see exactly what's around. So we're just going to pop it down these seam lines anywhere where we're a little bit concerned, and then when this dries we can see exactly how it looks. So we've got these areas down the back here, we've got these down in here again, and I think pretty much that's it. That's these just under here, seam running down the spine. And we're just going to go a little bit further on these. And to be honest, I'm just using up the paint now. Just to make sure we're all happy right the way through. And then what we can do is we can see straight off the bat that we're looking pretty good down the front here. Looking good all the way around these areas. And obviously flipping it over, that all looks pretty good. We've got nothing really on at the back and all those areas. So I think we're quite happy then to actually let that just dry off for a couple of minutes. We'll get some primer together and we'll actually give it a coat of primer right the way over. Right, okay, so that's drying off. So what we'll just do is empty out and clean out the colour cup. It doesn't have to be spotless, this, because to be honest with you, it I squirted it all over my finger. It doesn't have to be absolutely spotless because obviously it's just a primer coat. So if you have got it left in the actual bottom of your colour cup and stuff like that, honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. By the time you flush it out, it will be nothing to worry about. So we just put in a quick colour flush just down into here. And then what we're going to do is have a quick look round at the model. So we'll just dump this in here. That's looking good, just do that. See all of that through. So it doesn't matter if there's a little bit left down in there, let's grab that. Okay, so having a look at the model, to be honest, there's nothing obvious that stands out. So where we just put a bead down here of the black, I can't see any problems. I can't see anything wrong with the tail. These wing roots, I can't find a problem there. We've got nothing up the front here. Down the back here, still a little bit wet, which you could probably dry down. That actually all looks, to be honest, very Very nice indeed. Actually did a good job back there. And no other areas. Now obviously if you saw something glaringly obvious that's jumping out of you now thinking, do you know what, that's really got to go, then you might want to think about obviously just giving it, just putting a tiny bit down there, and we give that a wipe just to get rid of that. Any surface stuff there we go. But yeah, so the thing is obviously if you saw anything glaringly obvious, you'd take it off and go back, but I think we're actually okay. So what we got down in here is a little bit of Mr. Primer Surfacer 1000. Now the great thing about this is it works pretty much over everything. Not only is it good over plastic, it's good over resin, and it's good over things like white metal, it's good over photo etch, it's got a little bit of bite to it. For me, I always do a 50-50 mix with this stuff. So this is literally rapid drying thinners, and it's the best combination I have found in the last 20 years of doing this. It just works every single time. But basically any lacquer thinner into this will be absolutely fine, no problem at all. I make up a standard 50-50 mix. So all I've done here, I've decanted into this bottle already because it was half full, another 50% thinners, and then just giving it a good old shake, and we are ready to go. So you should come out with something that looks a bit like milk at the end of the day. All right, so we're just going to tip this in here again, so we're all fine and in. We'll just find our top. So we just pop our top on, because you know me, I'll be tipping it everywhere. So usual thing when you're putting down primer, 2 or 3 little coats, okay? Nothing big and heavy, nothing sort of over the top or anything else like that. You are literally just wanting to be come in over a couple of small coats, all right? So what we do a little bit up here on the top wing, I'll talk you through it, and then obviously we hit extractors and get masks on and all the rest of it. So really this is just going over neat paint. To start with, it's had a good rub over just to make sure there's no dust in it or anything else like that, and we are absolutely fine. We have got a little bit of speckling from this paint because we were spraying it neat, but we'll be able to overcoat that. That shouldn't be a problem, all right? So first of all, we're going to check our flow. So just down on here, we're just coming through and we're listening to it. Sounds like it's struggling just a little bit, so what I'm going to do is up my air pressure. When I say it sounds like it's struggling, it sounds like it's almost, it feels like it's an effort of the airbrush. That's a lot better. So now it doesn't sound like it's struggling, and that's good. All right, so the first coat is what we call a dusty coat. So we're just going to come in and putting down on here quite a high air pressure, as you can hear, a nice thin dusty coat, and that won't do anything. It's not really covering, but what it's doing now is creating a surface for the actual primer to bite onto and to etch into. So that will go on now and bite and do its bit right the way over it again. And what you can do is you can move around and do some other areas. So if I just hit the extractor, we'll just do under here with it as well again. So we're just going to come along, and again, it's nothing fast, it's nothing exciting, it's just a little dusty coat right over. And you can probably see when you're going over the black, it doesn't really cover, but what you want to do is just making sure you pretty much go everywhere, just so it's got a nice bite for it to go down on. So again, we'll just do this wing. We're not going to worry about the fuselage, we'll take care of that afterwards, but we do want to do things like leading edges of wings, down intakes, things like that. Just do this rudder, and again, and that's it. So that's my first coat down on there, just like that. So then what we're going to do is just going to turn that air pressure down just a smidgen, and then what we can do is, so we'll start on the underside because it's probably easier. Alright, we're going to start to put down. So this time, now there's a dusty coat on here, we can put down a little bit heavier. So again, slowing it down now, and we're just building up a nice layer. And again, it doesn't have to be particularly nice, it's literally just putting down a bit on here. If you can angle it so you can see the wetness, you just want it to go down pretty much looking quite wet as you're putting it down. And again, we'll just work our way up through the middle here, and then we'll do this wing. But again, it's not turning it grey or anything else like that. Work our way over. Remember, in the wheel wells and all those areas. And then again, we'll work our way down the back, and just so it's looking quite wet. So you're just slowing down your your movement as you're actually putting it down again. So what you're going to do is wait for it to dry off again. So you go around and do other things. So we just do this little bit of the wing. Again, we're just moving a little bit slower. Making sure it's all wet. Again, we're just going to pop it around everywhere else. Okay, so now we've just used up our first bit, and that's the nice thing about having it all decanted here and ready to go. And again, it's a 30-second scale model, and I fill up the colour cup about half at a time. So, you know, it's roughly around about, I don't know, 3 ml of paint. So you're not using gallons of it when you're putting this down. And then again, we'll just do this wing over here, same thing. And it doesn't matter which direction you go or anything else at the moment, it's just this coat's going to be a lot heavier, so it's going to cover a bit more. Remember, leading edges are wings. And again, we've got to use a large paw. Again, looking pretty good. So under here we're good now. So this is the third coat. So this one is going to be a lot slower, and you want it to look wet. So when it dries to a nice satin finish. So again, we're going to start over here, and we want it to go on and properly look like it's wet as it's going down. But because it's got a lot of grip, it won't run away. So don't worry about it getting runs and all things like that. Do this front, and as you can see, you can get it nice and wet with no problems at all. It's got a nice grippy surface to adhere to, so you should be absolutely fine. And again, I'm just going to go over here, be nice and wet. And again, you can probably see how smooth this is looking. Actually, it's all looking really very, very nice. It's got the last edge down there, a little bit more over here. It's actually looking really very, very nice. So again, we're just going to come down in here, and again, that's it. We'll reload. So again, there's quite a lot of paint going down on this, or primer I should say, but at the end of the day, it's doing a really good job. It's got that bite, it's being able to stick, it's not running off, we're not getting runs in it anywhere or anything else like that. It's actually looking really, really nice, okay? So again, we're just going to come down in here, slowing down, having a little bit of faith that it's all going to stay and it's not going to run away. Hopefully you can see how well that's looking. It's looking really very, very nice. Again, don't forget your leading edges. And again, hopefully you can see how nicely that's going down. It's a little bit darker here, but obviously that's to be expected. So we're happy with that. Alright, so we've just got a little bit more on this wing. There we go. So hopefully you can see that's actually all looking really very, very nice, very, very glossy. So I'm going to do this area where I'm holding it. So what we're going to do is let it dry off for a moment. Probably hold it like this, and we can do this centre area. And then what we're doing, we get the big camera on, and we'll have a look and see if there's anything we need to take care of. Okay, so out the spray booth, and we're down, and we can see we've got one very, very nice looking spec. Again, all primed up. The big secret, I think, to where people get texture in that is that wet look. When you're putting it down, that final coat, make sure it's a nice wet coat. You'll be amazed how much paint can actually go down before it starts to run. And as you can see, it's nice and glossy. And if we move over to the close-up, you can actually see all of the riveting detail is there. No imperfections at all. All of this seam line work we did at the top here is absolutely fine, and obviously this big thing up here where we have this gap and we did the little bit of filling job and everything else, we've got a perfect fit now to that front canopy right the way through. So that's really nice. All of the details on the top here looking very nice, and underneath again we spent quite a bit of time with this particular seam just underneath here, and there we go, totally seamless, very, very nice, no problems at all with that one. And obviously the one at the front here, we have this big bit around here, that's gone. Obviously the ones down the side here, no problems. The wingtip ones looking good as well. So that is the whole point, taking your time, getting that preparation all down in there. And when you're coming along with your primer at this point, you can say to yourself, well look, perhaps there's a small imperfection, there's a little bit still of a sink mark, and you can catch it, because obviously you want to make sure at this point it's perfect, or as perfect as you're happy with, you know. And that's a big thing to all of this. If you're, you know, not too worried about it, you're going to put some weathering on and stuff. You don't really have to have a totally smooth, glossy finish. But obviously, if you're going to be doing it quite a clean jet, or a vehicle, or armor, or ship, no matter what it is, you want this to be now as good as it could possibly get, because you can add any weathering as you want as you make your way down. But you know, it's really that thing when you put it down, you think that you might lose some of this detail, obviously in this paneling and things like that. And as you can see, all the riveting detail is all just still here. We've got no rough textures, so there's no roughness in these areas. Both sides are absolutely fine and glossy and smooth, and that's really what we were after. Again, it's got that sort of nice feel to it, very happy with it. So now when we move on to the paint stage and make our way through that, we've got nothing that could ever trip us up. So it's not like we always had a small problem. There was a gap down there we were never happy with. We had some texture in there and things like that. If you have got some texture and it is a little bit, you know, you run your finger over it and it's a little bit gritty, just put up over it with like a polishing sander or an old sponge, something else like that. Just give it a light rub, then wipe it off, and make sure you get rid of all of that dust and everything else. But there we go, that's a very nice, very happy primed plane all ready to go. So all of that hard work, taking care of all of those seam lines and everything else like that, has given us technically the best possible now kit going forward into the painting stage, and obviously with deckling and then in with weathering, and then for the final bits and pieces going onto it. So a good foundation is essential to everything that is now to come.